Hey everyone, this is Nitro. For this third video about Apex Arena, I wanted to talk about the third method that I frequently won these battles by, which was basically just winning in the pick ban phase. Now, I should mention, in very many ways, when you win by having summons against your opponent, that's actually a win by pick ban as well. Because you properly picked in a way so that you could have more summoners than your opponent, right? So winning in that sense by summoning is a win in the pick ban phase. But there are other battles where you win without having a summon advantage in pick ban. And usually examples of this would be, let's say, if you have Zerida and your opponent doesn't. If you are able to play your 6-star Bernhardt with a faction buff so that he can one-shot enemy characters. That's another example of a win in pick ban. Generally speaking, to win in the pick ban phase in the first place, you really do require a very good team of 15 characters. So we're talking about, generally speaking, it would be a lot of meta characters in your top 15, like Zerida, Bernhardt, a lot of, Bozel for summoning, Liana for summoning, etc. So these battles do depend very heavily on you having the proper characters. For example, characters that I'm personally missing that could really have helped my personal chances in winning in pick ban would be, for example, having a fully built Joshua. Right? Joshua with his Dark Demise to dispel buffs on the enemy at extreme range, as well as Phantom Raid and Faction buff for time and space, makes him an incredibly useful character in your top 15. Another great character for Season 1 that I don't use is Gizarov, right? Because Gizarov, his basic skill, Summon Construct, is a summon. And his faction buff, Mythical Realm, affects a lot of the characters that are in my party that I currently bring. So, for example, it affects Juggler, Bozel, I think it affects Zerida too. So, a lot of characters that really benefit from Gizarov's faction buff. Another great character to bring, if you have leveled up, is actually Sakura, right? And Sakura's great simply because of her skills, right? One of her skills applies the heal reversal effect, which is basically identical to Listel's heal reversal. So, she's an amazing character to have in your top 15. Granted, she is very hard to build because having her at a high star level isn't easy, and also having the gear for her to get the most benefit out of it is not easy either. So, you're looking at, let's say, Balance Blade and Apex Boots, and you need Balance Blade and Apex Boots for almost every single infantry character like Bernhardt and Bernhardt. So, nonetheless, just the fact that if these kind of characters being in your top 15 can really, really help you win the battles right off in the pick ban phase. So, I'm just going to demonstrate, I guess, 3 battles which were basically won in the pick ban phase. And I generally won't play out the full video. I'll just go over the pick ban section because, the victory is pretty much predetermined right there. So let's start with this one where I face against Jack Ma. Alright, so in this battle, he starts by banning my Bernhardt. And I counter by banning Listel, pretty much my standard ban. And I play my Liana, which is already a weird choice as a side note. This was a little bit further back, I think 2 weeks ago, back on the 12th of October. And it was like my first time playing Apex Arena since around week 4. So I was definitely very rusty. Now, for this battle, I did have Joshua because Joshua was the mercenary of the week, which really helped in terms of making my party harder to pick ban against. In any case though, he also plays Liana. And so I ban his Bernhardt and Zerida, getting rid of the 3 biggest threats, right? At least what I think of as the big 3, which are Listel, Bernhardt, and Zerida. And since he did not ban my Zerida, I play her. Now, he bans my 2 tanks, Langrisser and Juggler, my 2 primary tanks, and plays Ulti Muller. So I'm not really aiming to ban his tanks, so I'm aiming more for his damage dealers in general. With Muller's strategist buff, I had to take out the characters who benefit from it, which is Luna and Leon, right? I really didn't want to get one-shotted by either of those. So I play Bernhardt now, because Bernhardt is my third tier tank, right? After Langrisser and Juggler, if I still need a tank, I usually play Bernhardt. And he blends my Bozel and Elwyn, which makes sense. Bozel could faction buff up Zerda and Bernhardt, while Elwyn could get faction buffed by Bernhardt. And he plays Leonhard. So he's going for a strategist team, right? 2 strategist buffers. So I just ban Varna and Tiaris because I actually wasn't sure what to ban at this point. And I play my Varna. Because Varna, with her ranged 1,000 arrows attacks, can help remove buffs and so on. Now, at this point, I'm down to Imelda and Iris. And he plays Joshua. So I finally ban his dark characters, Bozel and Lena, and I choose to play Imelda for her immunity to fixed damage, right? Seeing that he had Joshua made me decide to play Imelda, and he plays Elwyn. So you can pretty much see right there, with Zerda and Liana, with an AoE attack, with a tank, and basically Imelda and Liana both act as healers for me. I had an overwhelming advantage over what is essentially an all melee team except for Joshua, right? So I'm not even going to play this battle out at this point because the victory was pretty straightforward. I just had Zerda assassinate targets pretty much at will, moving in and then retreating, and then hit them with AoEs as necessary, and had immunity to fixed damage to counter Joshua's AoE attacks. So that was a clear battle that was won in the pick ban phase. As I mentioned as well, all of these summon battles can really be called winning in pick ban as well, because as long as you don't make mistakes and you have a summon advantage, you're going to win eventually as the map gets smaller. So those are all additional examples of winning in pick ban. But another good example of winning in pick ban would be, let's see, I saw one up there, but I think there were 3 examples. So this was the first. I think this one here against Jacqueline is the second, and I think I'll display that one too. So let's bring that up. So, and here, my first banned character is Juggler, and I always ban Listel. That was a real surprise to me that my Juggler got banned, but I played Langrisser as a tank this time around, and he chooses to ban Listel and Liana next, and play his own Liana. So, I choose to ban Zerda and Bozel here, because my opponent didn't have... Oh no, my opponent did have Leonhard. I'm actually not sure why I didn't ban Leonhard. In any case though, I played Zerda, since she was still pickable. And my opponent plays Langrisser at this point. So I just keep banning. Really not quite sure why I didn't ban Leonhard. Maybe I knew that he didn't have a good one. That might have been the case. So continuing on. After I play my Zerda, I play Tiaris for my healer. And he bans my Elwyn and Lena. And plays Bernhardt. So he's going for, I guess, a heavier... higher hit point party to try to counter my Zerda. So I ban his Leonhard now, as well as Lena. And then play Imelda. He bans my Varna and Shuri and plays Muller. I ban his Luna and Tiaris. And I play Rene. And so... he plays Juggler for his last character. So, overall, this battle looked a bit... Well, I had the Zerda, which was meant to one-shot enemy targets, but he went for very high hit point characters in general, all melee class though, right? But it's an interesting, so to kind of try to counter that, I decided to bring Rene rather than Leonhard. You know, either one could have been used in truth. Leonhard would be higher AoE damage, but my thought was with Juggler in play, Leonhard might not actually do that much damage, so I decided to play Rene instead. The key thing here for this particular fight that I believe won it for me was that Zerda could get Attack Blessing, Miracle, as well as Imelda's damage increasing Iron Fist. So let's just take a look and play this one out, because initially it does look like it's not that favorable to me. But so Zerda here is faction buffing, self-buffing Meteor Zerda, as opposed to being the Bloodthirster style Zerda. So she had Meteor faction buff, Backstab, and Shadow Raid. I didn't use the whole mass attack idea here. So my basic thought though was Zerda with Attack Blessing and Imelda's buff for very high increased damage could allow her to Shadow Raid down targets. And then I would use ranged attacks to kill them all off, while Tiaris would provide healing light to my Landius and so on. So there goes Imelda with her mass attack. Now, one thing that also really helped me for this particular fight though is that Jackaren's... Oh no, she does have a Summon Sky Archer. Well, in any case though, interestingly enough, I was down a summon as well. So initially it looked fairly bad to and fairly disadvantaged, right? But, so I'm stacking a crazy number of buffs on my Zerda right now. And now I have Zerda charge forward and hit the enemy Ultimuller, one-shotting it. And then it's able to retreat back into Landius' guard range. So even though he has the summon now, essentially we have the same number of turns, because it still ends up being basically 5 characters against 5 characters. So here I have Rene start tossing out the AoE, Calamity Throw. That was more to just try to debuff these enemies in general. But he just dispels it, right? The summon usually dispels it. So now I start moving back because I'm busy with Zerda trying to reactivate her skill, Shadow Raid. So I'm just basically moving everyone back. And then here, I attack Blessing Rene because I had a feeling that I needed to kill off this Juggler, right? When it comes in with Beast Shock. But it actually doesn't attack. So, given that's the case, I just continue to move back and set up my characters in a way where Landius can guard. So he hits me with his Leonhard, but the key thing here is Imelda's immunity to fixed damage really kicks in, right? Her helm. So Landius took absolutely no ruptured damage, and then the Lava Titan burn does absolutely nothing to me because it's all fixed damage. So now I saw an opportunity to have Zerda attack and kill off Liana, and I went right for it because he had no guard skill up on Juggler, and Liana was so far back that I could just do a regular strike and have Zerda actually wipe her out. Because once the backstab kicked in, she has no survivability. So then I just set up my characters with Landius protecting. And now my opponent has no real healer at this point, and it is 5 versus 3. Well, 5 versus 4 if you count the Sky Archer. So he aims for the juggler attack now with Beast Shock to stop my guarding on Landius. And that was why I had Rene set up with Attack Blessing. With the strike, down goes juggler, and my opponent has no choice but to retreat because it's now down to 5 against 2. So I guess this battle in particular was a combination of a victory through the pick ban phase and mistakes that my opponent made. I mean, he did have an extra summon over me, but he didn't summon it right on turn 1, and it really did end up costing him over time. And then I'm just trying to see if there's the third battle, which was won in the pick ban phase. This is it. The third and final one. It did have a different name, but it was, which I called Zerda and Bozel. Because, well, when you get Zerda and Bozel together, it's pretty much a killer combination. So, here we go. So, he has one of the Echoes of Light avatar frames. And when we begin, he bans my Landius, I ban his Listel. So I play Zerda first thing. He bans my Juggler and Liana now. So my tanks and Liana. And plays Landius. So I choose to ban his Zerda and Liana in response. And I'll play Bozel. So I didn't ban Leonhard yet, because I figured if he doesn't have a faction buff for Leonhard, it's not that much of a threat. So he bans my Listel and Rene now, dark characters, while playing Waller. And in a lot of ways, I ban his dark characters, Lana and Bozel, and I was able to play Bernhardt. So it seems like a lot of people don't really realize that Bernhardt functions as a pretty decent tank, right? I can often pick him as the third character instead of being forced to pick him first and still succeed. He bans my Leonhard and and plays Lanford. So very much he's now aiming for strategist type characters. So I ban Luna and Rene, characters who are getting faction buffs by Lanford and Landius, and play Lana. So I haven't banned his Leonhard yet. He bans my Tiaris and my Teleporter Iris, and plays Elwyn. So now he's kind of branching out kind of a few characters in every kind of faction, right? So I ban his Leonhard at last, because I want to avoid an AoE attack, and I ban his Tiaris, removing that second healer choice, leaving him just Ledin and Matthew. And I play Imelda. This was kind of a tough choice, Imelda or Elwyn. I decided to go for Imelda because I really do like Imelda's additional damage boost for other heroes. And he plays Matthew. So, this battle, once again, Zerda is on the field, this time with Bozel. And so my Zerda here, though, is, of course, the Bloodthirster version since she has a faction buff. And I also have Bozel bring a summon to help do some turn manipulation and management. So in a lot of ways, I had the turn advantage in terms of turn manipulation. I had Zerda and Bozel comboed for the Bloodthirster version, and so I felt quite confident in this fight. Now I think the only thing I had to really be wary of was that Matthew with the sprint, right, for additional movement. But we'll continue. So initially I try to hang back a little bit, buffing up my characters. Zerda, activating Bloodthirster. And then Elwyn, the enemy Elwyn, moves up with the faction buff, and he keeps Waller far back. And for this fight, I had no idea what to do for the third skill for Imelda, so I ended up bringing Regenerate. My thought was, hey, this could maybe keep my Bernhardt a bit healthier than he would be otherwise. So let's continue. He now sprints up his party so that they can start charging forward. With the sprint, you know, I saw it as, hey, he still can't reach me with neither Landius or Elwyn, so I kind of disregarded that sprint. And yes, Landius, chivalry forward, and then toss out the javelin attack, which was actually able to one-shot my Bernhardt. So I retaliate with a one-shot from my Lena to kill off his Lanford. And this is where the sprint came into effect, right? Because now his Landius was able to melee attack and one-shot my Lena. So I have Imelda ranged attack, had to take that gamble at this point to hit the weakened Landius. Wasn't able to kill him, but it's nearly dead. So I go after Matthew to kill it off, because I felt a nearly dead Landius isn't much of a threat, but Matthew, with potentially activating Gale and so on, was a big threat. So Matthew is now dead. And in terms of combat, it's 3 characters against 4. Sorry, no, it's 3v3. Right? 3v3. So he has Waller, Elwyn, and Landius. I have Zerda, Imelda, and Bozel. He starts by tactical retreating his Landius and healing it up. I have my Zerda activate her Bloodthirster in the rear. And I have to start attacking this Landius aggressively. And Bozel kills it for the first time. Okay. So that worked out quite well. And then that way, Imelda was able to attack as well and finish off Landius. She killed herself, but now it's 2v2. Waller moves in to strike my Bozel, but Bozel has ridiculous magic defense, right? 833. So this Waller with 824 int basically does nothing to him. It's now Elwyn against Waller. Or Elwyn and Waller against Bozel and Zerda. And then I just have Zerda rush in and hit Elwyn, one-shotting him, and done. So, initially, early on, there was a lot of trading of characters, but you know, the fact of the matter was Waller didn't really help his cause at the end of the day, while my ability to have a summon on the field really helped me win in particular. So there you go, a third battle where the pick ban phase really won me the fight. Now, a huge part of that is due to mistakes my opponent made, right? Very often I find not very many people are aware that Bernhardt makes a very good tank with the parry skill. So yeah, I mean, the even better tanking skill for Bernhardt in truth is the Iron Fist, because it can be activated for 2 guard range, right? But the difference is Iron Fist has a 2 cost, while parry just has the 1 cost for the 1 guard range. So there you go. There you have it. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video kind of informative. I mean, pick ban definitely wins a lot of battles as long as you know how to make use of it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and on that note, Nitro out.